3 days passed after the bonding ritual. 3 days of questions, meetings, and endless discussions. The news had spread across the galaxy faster than light itself. A human had bonded with every creature in the beast realm. The shepherds had returned. Some species celebrated. They sent messages of hope and joy, speaking of ancient prophecies that had finally come true. Other species panicked. They called emergency meetings and prepared their armies, fearing what the return of the shepherds might mean for the balance of power in the galaxy. And in the middle of it all was Taeyun, just a young man from a small planet, trying to understand what his life had become. He sat in a garden near the academy, watching the 3 moons rise in the darkening sky. The great dragon Yongsu lay nearby, his massive body curled around a grove of trees. Several smaller creatures had gathered as well. Shadow wolves rested in the shade. Light birds perched in the branches above. A frost serpent, not summons but one who had chosen to stay with Taeyun, coiled near a small pond. They did not need to speak. They were all connected now, their minds linked together in a web of understanding. Taeyun could feel their thoughts and emotions as easily as he felt his own. Footsteps approached. Taeyun turned to see Somin walking toward him, her white hair floating gently around her face. Her own frost serpent slithered beside her, its diamond scales glittering in the moonlight. "May I join you?" she asked. Taeyun nodded and made room for her on the stone bench where he sat. She settled beside him and looked out at the gathering creatures. "You have been quiet these past days," she said. "Everyone wants to talk to you. Instructors, students, diplomats from a dozen species. But you come here instead." "It is peaceful here," Taeyun said. "With them, I do not have to explain myself. They already understand." Somin nodded slowly. "That must be nice. I bond with my serpent, and I feel connected to her. But you feel connected to all of them. I cannot imagine what that is like." Taeyun thought about it for a moment. "It is like being part of a family," he said finally. "A very large family. I feel their joys and their sorrows. I feel when they are hurt and when they are happy. It is a lot to carry, but it also means I am never alone." Yongsu raised his great head and looked at them with one massive eye. "The young one speaks truth," the dragon said, his voice rumbling through their minds. "We shepherds never walked alone. It was our greatest strength and our greatest weakness. To feel everything is to feel too much, but it is also to love without limits." Somin shivered slightly at the dragon's words. "The Galactic Council has made a decision," she said. "Instructor Valis told me this morning. They want to meet you." Taeyun felt a knot form in his stomach. "What will they do?" "That depends on you," Somin said. "Valis says there are those on the council who want to welcome you. They see this as a chance for peace, for healing old wounds. But there are others who are afraid. They remember the wars. They remember what happened when the shepherds were destroyed. I was not there for any of that," Taeyun said. "Humans did not even know we were connected to the shepherds until 3 days ago." "I know," Somin said gently. "And Valis will tell them that. But fear does not always listen to reason." They sat in silence for a while. The moons continued their slow journey across the sky. The creatures around them rested peacefully, their presence a comfort. Finally, Taeyun spoke again. "When I was young, I used to watch the stars from my family's farm. I wondered if there was anyone out there. I dreamed of seeing other worlds, meeting other beings. I never imagined anything like this. Do you regret coming here?" Somin asked. Taeyun thought about it. He thought about everything he had lost. His simple life, his peaceful days, the comfort of being ordinary. But he also thought about what he had gained. The creatures who now shared his heart. The knowledge of his true heritage. The chance to do something meaningful with his life. "No," he said. "I do not regret it. It is hard, It is scary, but it is also wonderful. I have purpose now. I have a reason to exist beyond just surviving." He turned to look at Soman. In the moonlight, her blue skin seemed to glow. "Will you help me?" he asked. "I do not know how to talk to councils or deal with politics. I am just a farmer. But you understand these things. You could guide me." Soman smiled. It was a warm smile, the kind that made her already beautiful face even more lovely. "I will help you," she said. "We are classmates now, are we not? And perhaps something more in time. The shepherds may have returned, but they do not have to stand alone. Not anymore." She reached out and took his hand. Her fingers were cold, but her touch was gentle dot from nearby. Young Su made a sound that might have been a laugh. "The young ones make promises," he said. "It is good. The future is not written. It is made one choice at a time. You have both made good choices today." Taeyin felt something warm spreading through his chest. It was hope. Despite all the fear, despite all the uncertainty, he felt hope. The next morning, a ship arrived at the academy. It was larger than any ship Taeyin had ever seen, covered in golden symbols that marked it as a vessel of the Galactic Council. Hundreds of students and instructors gathered to watch as it landed on the main courtyard. Taeyin stood at the front of the crowd, Soman beside him, young Su behind him. Other creatures had gathered as well, forming a ring around the courtyard. They did not threaten or intimidate. They simply stood as witnesses. The ship's doors opened. A group of aliens walked out, each from a different species. They were the representatives of the Galactic Council, the most powerful beings in the known universe. They looked at Taeyin with expressions that ranged from curiosity to fear to something that might have been hope. One of them stepped forward. She was tall and thin, with skin like polished silver and eyes that glowed softly gold. When she spoke, her voice carried across the courtyard like music. "Taeyin of Earth," she said. "Human, shepherd, the council has sent us to meet you, to learn what you are, to understand what you want." Taeyin took a deep breath. He thought of his home, of his sister Yuna, of the simple life he had left behind. Then he thought of the creatures who shared his heart, the friends who stood beside him, the future that waited to be written. He stepped forward to meet the council's representatives. "I want peace," he said simply. "I want understanding. I want a galaxy where no species has to fear another, where creatures and people can live together in harmony. I do not know if that is possible. I do not know if I'm strong enough to make it happen, but I am willing to try." The silver alien studied him for a long moment. Then, slowly, she smiled. "Perhaps," she said, "that is exactly what the galaxy needs. Perhaps the shepherds returned at just the right time." She extended her hand in the universal gesture of greeting. Taeyin took it, and somewhere, in the beast realm that now lived in his heart, 1,000,000,000 creatures rejoiced. Their shepherd had come home at last. And the future, for the first time in millions of years, was bright with hope. Taeyin stood in the endless plain, surrounded by stars that moved like living things. He could feel them all. Every creature in the beast realm had turned its attention to him. It was like standing in the center of an ocean, with waves coming from every direction at once. He should have been afraid. Any normal person would have been. But somehow, in this strange place, he felt only calm. He felt peace. He felt like he had finally come home after a long, long journey. One voice rose above the others. It was deep and ancient, like the sound of mountains growing. "You are the one," the voice said. "We have waited so long." Taeyin did not understand. He was just a farmer from a small planet. He was nobody special. But the voice continued. "Long ago, when the universe was young, there was a species that could speak to all creatures. They could bond with any beast, from the smallest insect to the greatest dragon. They were called the shepherds. They kept balance between all living things. But they disappeared. We thought they were gone forever. And now, here you are. I'm just human, Taeyun thought. I do not know anything about shepherds. Another voice joined the first. This one was quick and bright, like lightning dancing across a summer sky. Humans, the voice said. That is what you call yourselves now. But your blood is old. Your souls carry the memory of what you once were. You forgot. But we never did. More voices came. They spoke in words he could understand and in feelings that went beyond words. They told him stories of a time before time, when the shepherds walked among the stars. They told him how the shepherds could calm the wildest storms and soothe the angriest beasts. They told him how the shepherds had protected all life in the universe. And then, they told him how the shepherds had been betrayed. There were others, the ancient voice said. Other species who wanted power for themselves. They feared the shepherds. They attacked them. They scattered them across the galaxy and made them forget who they were. The shepherds became humans, the quick voice added. They settled on a small, forgotten world. They lost their memories. They lost their connection to us. But their blood remained pure. And now, after millions of years, one of them has finally answered the call again. Taeyun felt tears forming in his eyes, even though he was not sure he had eyes in this place. It was too much. It was too big. He was just one person. How could he carry the weight of such a history? You do not have to carry it alone, a new voice said. This one was warm and gentle, like a fire on a cold night. We are here. We have always been here. And now, we can finally be together again. The plane around him began to change. The stars moved closer. The darkness became light. And Taeyun saw them. Creatures of every kind stood before him. Dragons with wings that spanned the sky. Wolves made of shadow and flame. Serpents that swam through the air like water. Birds that sang songs of pure light. Beasts that were so strange and wonderful that he had no words to describe. There were thousands, millions, more than he could count. And every single one of them was looking at him with love and hope. We will answer your call, the ancient voice said. All of us, every creature in the beast realm. We have waited for this moment. We will not let it pass, but I only need one bond, Taeyun thought. That is how it works. One person, one beast. The creatures around him seemed to laugh, though not with mockery. It was a kind laugh, full of affection. That is how it works for others, the warm voice said. But you are not like others. You are a shepherd. You do not bond with one creature. You bond with all creatures. That is your gift. That is your purpose. Taeyun felt something building inside him. It was power, but not the kind that wanted to control or destroy. It was the power to connect. The power to understand. The power to love all living things without limit. He opened his arms wide, even though he was not sure he had arms in this place. And he accepted them all. Come, he thought. I do not know if I am worthy. I do not know if I can be what you need me to be. But I will try. I will try with everything I have. The response was immediate. Every creature in the beast realm moved toward him. They did not push or fight. They flowed like water, like light, like love itself. They entered his heart, his mind, his soul. They became part of him, and he became part of them. Back in the bombing hall, something impossible was happening. The crystal pillar was glowing so bright that no one could look at it directly. The symbols on the platform were spinning faster and faster, creating patterns that no one had ever seen before. And Taeyun stood at the center of it all, his hand on the crystal, his eyes closed, his face peaceful. But that was not the impossible part. The impossible part was what was happening in the sky. The 3 moons had had stopped moving. The stars had grown brighter. And in the distance, something was coming. Many somethings. Creatures were appearing from every direction. They flew through the air. They rose from the ground. They stepped out of shadows and beams of light. "By the Ancient Ones," Valis whispered. His voice was shaking. In all his centuries of life, he had never been afraid. But he was afraid now. What has he done? The first creature to reach the hall was a dragon. It was massive, with scales of deep blue and wings that blocked out the setting sun. It landed on the edge of the building with a sound like thunder and folded its wings. It did not attack. It did not threaten. It simply bowed its great head toward Taeyeon. More creatures followed. A pack of shadow wolves ran across the grounds, their forms shifting and changing, but their eyes fixed on the platform. A flock of light birds descended from the sky, their feathers bright against the growing darkness. Serpents of every kind slithered through the gardens, their scales catching the glow of the platform. The students who had not yet left began to panic. Some ran, others screamed. A few tried to summon their own bonded beasts for protection. But the creatures did not care about them. The creatures only cared about one person. Somin stood frozen, her frost serpent coiled around her protectively. But the serpent was not afraid. It was watching Taeyeon with something like wonder. "What is he?" Somin whispered. Her serpent answered in her mind, its voice soft and full of awe. "He is what we have been waiting for. He is the one who speaks to all. He is a shepherd." On the platform, Taeyeon finally opened his eyes. They were different now. Before, they had been dark brown, ordinary human eyes. Now, they glowed with inner light. They held the reflection of 1,000 stars, 1,000,000 creatures, an entire realm of living things. He looked out at the chaos around him. He saw the fear on the faces of the students. He saw the creatures gathered like an army. And slowly, he raised his hand. "Be still," he said. But he did not say it with his voice. He said it with his mind, with his heart, with the power that now flowed through him. "Be calm. There is nothing to fear." And every creature, every single one, fell silent. The dragons settled. The wolves sat. The birds landed. The serpents coiled peacefully. The bonding hall, which had been filled with screams and chaos just moments before, became perfectly quiet. Taeyeon looked at Instructor Valis. The tall alien was staring at him with his black eyes wide open. "I think," Taeyeon said quietly, "I have completed the ritual." No one said a word. The silence in the bonding hall lasted for what felt like forever. No one moved. No one spoke. Even the wind seemed to have stopped, as if the universe itself was holding its breath. Taeyeon stood on the platform, surrounded by the glow of the crystal. He could feel every creature that had answered his call. They were not just around him physically. They were inside him, connected to his mind and heart in ways he could not fully understand. He felt the ancient wisdom of the dragons, the wild freedom of the wolves, the cold patience of the serpents. He felt joy and sorrow, hope and fear, love and loyalty. He felt everything. It was overwhelming, but it was also beautiful. Slowly, Instructor Valis walked forward. His steps were careful, as if he was approaching something dangerous. But when he reached the platform, he did not attack or threaten. Instead, he did something that shocked everyone who was watching. He bowed. "Shepherd," Valis said. His voice, which had always been cold and empty of emotion, now carried something new. It carried respect. It carried awe. "Forgive me. I did not know." Taeyeon looked down at him. "I do not understand. What did you not know?" Valis raised his head. His black eyes, which had always seemed so distant, now held a strange light. "The legends. We all know them, but we thought they were just stories. Tales told to children. The shepherds were supposed to be myths, beings from a time so long ago that no one believed they were real. Around them, the other students were beginning to recover from their shock. Some still looked afraid. Others looked confused. But a few, including Selman, looked at Taeyeon with something new in their eyes. Something that might have been wonder. "Tell me about the shepherds," Taeyeon said. "Please, I need to understand what is happening to me." Valis stood up straight. He looked around at the creatures that filled the hall and surrounded the building. Then he began to speak. In the oldest records, from species that have lived for billions of years, there are stories of a people who could bond with any creature. They did not call to one beast. They called to all beasts. They were peacemakers, healers, protectors. When wars threatened to destroy worlds, the shepherds would come and calm the creatures on both sides. When plagues spread through the beast realm, the shepherds would heal them. They kept balance in the universe. He paused and looked at Taeyeon with an expression that was almost sad. But they were too powerful. Other species feared them. They worried that the shepherds would one day decide to rule instead of protect. So they attacked them. It was the greatest war in the history of the galaxy. When it was over, the shepherds were gone. Some believed they were killed. Others believed they hid themselves away. But all agreed that they would never return. Taeyeon felt a chill run through him. He thought about what the creatures in the beast realm had told him. About how the shepherds had been scattered and made to forget. About how they had become humans. "My people," he said quietly. "Humans, we are the shepherds." Valis nodded slowly. "It seems so. Your species is young by galactic standards. Your recorded history is only a few thousand years. But your blood is old. The spark of the shepherds lives on in you." A murmur ran through the watching students. Some voices were afraid. Others were angry. "This cannot be allowed," someone shouted. It was a student from a species called the Tarani, the same bronze-skinned, six-legged beings who had gone first in the ritual. The shepherds were dangerous. That is why they were destroyed. If humans are truly shepherds, they must be stopped before they grow too powerful. Other voices joined in agreement. Fear was spreading. Taeyeon could feel it, not just in the air, but in his mind. He could sense the emotions of everyone around him, both the people and the creatures. And he knew that this moment would decide everything. He stepped forward to the edge of the platform. The creatures around him shifted, not in threat, but in support. They would protect him if he asked. They would fight for him. But that was not what he wanted. "Listen to me," he said. His voice was calm but firm. "I do not want power. I do not want to rule anyone. Until 3 months ago, I was a farmer on a small planet that most of the galaxy did not even know existed. I came here because I wanted to learn. I wanted to see what was out there among the stars." He looked out at the faces watching him. Some were still afraid, but others were listening. "The creatures answered my call," he continued. "All of them. I did not ask for this. I did not know it would happen. But it did, and now I have to decide what to do with it." He raised his hands and gestured to the beasts surrounding the hall. The great dragon, the shadow wolves, the serpents and birds and countless others. "Look at them. They are not attacking. They are not threatening. They came because they have been waiting. They came because they hoped. The shepherds were their friends, their protectors, their family. And when the shepherds disappeared, the creatures lost something important." He lowered his hands and looked at Valis. "I cannot be what the old shepherds were. I am just one person, from one small planet. But I can try to learn. I can try to be worthy of the trust these creatures have given me. And I promise you, I promise everyone here, that I will never use this power to harm or control." The hall was silent again, but this silence was different. It was not the silence of shock. It was the silence of thought. Soman stepped forward. A frost serpent moved with her, its diamond scales catching the light. She walked until she stood before the platform, looking up at Taeyeon. "I believe you," she said. Her voice was clear and strong. "I do not know what this means for the future. I do not know if the rest of the galaxy will accept it. But I believe that you are telling the truth." She held out her hand. Taeyeon looked at it for a moment. Then he stepped down from the platform and took her hand in his. Her skin was cold, but her grip was warm. Around them, other students began to move forward. Not all of them. Some still hung back with fear in their eyes. But many came closer, their bonded beasts walking beside them. They gathered around Taeyeon and Soman, forming a circle. Even Valis joined them. He placed one of his 4 hands on Taeyeon's shoulder. "The Academy will meet to send word to the Galactic Council," he said. "This is too important to keep secret. But I will speak on your behalf. I will tell them what I have seen here today. A young human who did not ask for power but received it anyway. A young human who chose peace when he could have chosen war." Taeyeon nodded gratefully. "Thank you." The creatures around the hall began to disperse. Some flew away into the night sky. Others faded into shadows or returned to wherever they had come from. But not all of them left. A few stayed close, their eyes fixed on Taeyeon. They had chosen to remain with him, at least for now. Among them was the great blue dragon. It lowered its massive head until its eye was level with Taeyeon's face. When it spoke directly into his mind. "I am called Young-Soo," the dragon said. "I am old, even by the standards of my kind. I watched the last of the shepherds fall. I thought I would never see one again. But here you are." Taeyeon reached out and touched the dragon's scales. They were cool and smooth, like metal. "Will you stay with me?" he asked. The dragon's eyes seemed to smile. "I will stay until the stars grow cold, little shepherd. You are not alone. You will never be alone again." Taeyeon did not sleep well that night. His room was small but comfortable, with a bed that was softer than anything he had ever felt. The walls glowed with a gentle light, and a window showed the 3 moons moving slowly across the sky. But every time he closed his eyes, he saw the faces of the other students. He heard their whispers. He felt their doubt. When morning came, he was already awake. He washed his face with water that was warm without being heated. He put on the simple white robe that all students had to wear for the ritual. He looked at himself in the mirror and saw a tired young man staring back. "You can do this," he told himself. But his voice did not sound sure. A bell rang somewhere in the distance. It was time. Taeyeon walked through the academy grounds with hundreds of other students. No one spoke to him. Some looked at him with curiosity. Others looked at him with something close to disgust. He kept his eyes forward and his back straight. The bonding hall was different today. The seats were empty. Instead, all the students stood in a wide circle around the central platform. The platform itself had been transformed. Strange symbols covered its surface, glowing with soft golden light. In the center stood a pillar of crystal that reached up toward the open sky. Instructor Valis appeared at the edge of the platform. His silver and gold robes caught the morning light. His black eyes swept across the gathered students. "Today," he said, "you will prove yourselves. One by one, you will step onto this platform. You will place your hand on the crystal. You will close your eyes and reach out with your mind. If a beast accepts you, it will appear. The bond will be made. You will be partners for life." He paused and let his words settle over the crowd. "We will begin with the eldest species first. That is our tradition. It honors those who came before." The first student stepped forward. He was tall, perhaps 3 meters, with skin like polished bronze and 6 legs. His people were called the Torani, And they had been bonding with beasts for 50 million years. He walked to the crystal with pride in every step. He placed his hand on the surface and closed his eyes. For a moment, nothing happened. Then the crystal began to glow brighter. The air above it twisted and folded. And suddenly, a creature appeared. It was a beast of pure metal. Its body was shaped like a great cat, but its skin was copper and gold. Its eyes burned with inner fire. It landed on the platform with a sound like thunder and bowed its head to the student. "A forge cat," Valis announced. "A worthy bond for a worthy student." The crowd made sounds of approval. The student and his beast walked off the platform together, their bond already strong. More students followed. Each one called, and each one was answered. Tane watched in wonder as creatures of every kind appeared. A student from a water world summoned a serpent made of living ocean, its body constantly flowing and changing. A student from a world of endless night called forth a shadow wolf. Its form dark and silent, but its eyes bright with intelligence. Then someone stepped forward. She walked to the crystal with grace, her white hair floating around her head. She placed her pale blue hand on the surface and closed her eyes. The temperature in the hall dropped instantly. Frost spread across the platform. Ice formed on the crystal, and then the creature came. It was a frost serpent, as the stories had said it would be. But Tan had not expected it to be so beautiful. Its scales were like diamonds, catching the light and throwing rainbows across the hall. Its eyes were deep blue, like the heart of a glacier. It was at least 20 meters long, and when it moved, it made a sound like breaking glass. "The frost serpent of the northern void," Valis said. There was something in his voice that might have been respect. A rare and powerful bond. Somen opened her eyes and smiled. The serpent lowered its great head and touched its nose to her hand. Then they walked off the platform together, the serpent shrinking to a smaller size to stay close to her. As she passed Taeyun, she gave him a small nod of encouragement. More hours passed. More students bonded with their creatures. The sun moved across the sky. The 3 moons began to appear even before the sky grew dark. And slowly, the crowd grew smaller as bonded students left to begin their new lives. Finally, as the sun began to set, Valis called out the last name. "Tan, human, step forward." The remaining students parted before him. Some laughed quietly. Others shook their heads. Tan heard the whispers again. "This will be interesting. Humans have no beast affinity. Everyone knows that. He will stand there and nothing will happen. It will be embarrassing." Taeyun walked to the platform. His legs felt weak, but he did not let it show. He climbed the steps and stood before the crystal. It was warm to the touch, almost alive. The symbols around him pulsed with light. "Place your hand on the crystal," Valis instructed. His voice was neither kind nor cruel. It was simply neutral, as if he expected nothing either way. Taeyun placed his hand on the crystal. It was smooth beneath his fingers. He could feel energy flowing through it, ancient and vast. "Close your eyes. Reach out with your mind. Call to the beast realm. If you are worthy, something will answer." Taeyun closed his eyes. At first, he saw only darkness. He tried to reach out with his mind, but he did not know how. He had never been trained for this. He had never practiced. He did not even know what the beast realm was supposed to feel like. Seconds passed. They felt like hours. He could hear the crowd growing restless. He could feel their judgment pressing down on him. Nothing was happening. He was failing. Then, deep in the darkness of his mind, he felt something. It was small at first, just a tiny flicker of warmth. But it grew. It spread. And suddenly, he was no longer standing on a platform in an alien academy. He was somewhere else. He stood in a vast plain that stretched out forever in all directions. The sky above was filled with stars, but they were not fixed. They moved, swirling in great patterns. And the plane was not empty. He could feel things out there. Living things. Watching him, waiting. He opened his mouth to speak, but no words came out. So instead, he simply thought, I am here. I am calling. Is anyone there? The response was immediate and overwhelming. It was not one voice. It was not even many voices. It was every voice. It was a chorus of minds, a symphony of souls, all turning toward him at once. He felt creatures of fire and creatures of ice. He felt beasts of shadow and beasts of light. He felt ancient things that had lived since the beginning of time and young things that had just been born. And all of them, every single one, was answering his call. Back in the bonding hall, Taeyeon's body had not moved. His hands still rested on the crystal. His eyes were still closed. But something was changing. The crystal was glowing brighter than it ever had before. The symbols on the platform were spinning, their light shifting from gold to white to colors that had no name. The air itself was vibrating, humming with power. Valis stepped back, his black eyes widening. In all his centuries of teaching, he had never seen anything like this. What is happening? Someone in the crowd asked. No one had an answer. And then the first creature appeared. The ship landed on the floating island with a soft thud. Taeyeon looked out the window and saw something he would never forget. The Galactic Beast Academy stood before him like a dream made real. Towers of white stone reached up into purple clouds. Strange birds with glowing feathers flew between the buildings. In the distance, he could see mountains that floated in the sky and waterfalls that fell upward instead of down. Taeyeon was 23 years old. He had black hair, tired eyes, and hands that still remembered hard work. Back on Earth, he had been nobody special. He grew up in a small town. He worked at his family's farm. He never thought he would leave his planet, let alone travel across the galaxy to attend the most famous school in the universe. But 3 months ago, everything changed. A ship had come to Earth. Aliens had walked among humans for the first time. They said they were looking for students. They said they wanted to test humans for something called beast affinity. Most humans failed the test. Taeyeon almost did not take it at all. But his younger sister Yuna had pushed him to try. What do you have to lose? She had asked him. So he tried. And somehow, against all odds, he passed. Now he stood on an alien world, surrounded by creatures and beings he had only seen in his wildest dreams. He picked up his small bag and walked down the ramp of the ship. The air smelled sweet, like flowers and rain. The ground beneath his feet was soft grass that seemed to glow faintly blue. Human, a voice said. Taeyeon turned. A tall alien stood before him. This alien had gray skin, 4 arms, and eyes that were completely black. He wore long robes of silver and gold. His face showed no emotion at all. I am Instructor Valis, the alien said. You are the human called Taeyeon, yes? Yes, sir, Taeyeon said. He tried to stand up straight and look confident, but his heart was beating fast. Follow me, Valis said. The opening ceremony will begin soon. You are the last to arrive. Taeyeon followed the instructor across the grass. They walked through gardens filled with plants he could not name. Some flowers opened as they passed, revealing tiny creatures inside that watched them with curious eyes. Other plants moved away from them, as if they were shy. You are the first human to attend this academy, Valis said as they walked. His voice was flat and cold. Many do not believe you belong here. They say humans are too young as a species. They say your kind has no real connection to the beast realm. I understand, Taeyeon said quietly. Do you? Valis stopped and turned to look at him. The students here come from species that have practiced beast bonding for thousands of years. some for millions. Humans have only known about the greater galaxy for 3 months. You will be seen as weak, as lesser. Are you prepared for that? Taeyeon thought about his life back home. He thought about the long days of work, the cold winters, the times when there was not enough food. He thought about his sister's smile when she said goodbye to him, tears in her eyes but pride on her face. I am used to being underestimated, he said. Valis studied him for a long moment. Then, without another word, he turned and continued walking. They arrived at a massive building. It was round, like a coliseum, but much larger than anything Taeyeon had ever seen. The walls were made of a material that looked like crystal, and through them he could see hundreds of figures already seated inside. The bonding hall, Valis said. This is where your journey truly begins. They entered through a tall doorway. Inside, the hall was even more impressive. Thousands of seats rose up in circles around the central platform. The ceiling was open to the sky, and Taeyeon could see 3 moons hanging above them, each a different color. The seats were filled with aliens of every kind. Some were tall and thin. Others were short and wide. Some had fur, others had scales, and some seemed to be made of pure light. They all turned to look at Taeyeon as he entered, and he felt their eyes on him like a weight. Whispers filled the hall. Is that the human? So small, so fragile. Why would they let such a primitive species attend? Taeyeon kept his head down and followed Valis to an empty seat near the front. He sat down and tried to make himself invisible. It did not work. A female alien sat next to him. She had pale blue skin, white hair that floated around her head like she was underwater, and eyes that sparkled like stars. She was beautiful in a strange, otherworldly way. You are the human, she said. It was not a question. Yes, Taeyeon said. I am Soman, she said, of the Valari people. We are ice dwellers. Our home world is very cold. Nice to meet you, Taeyeon said. I am Taeyeon. My home world is not as impressive. Soman tilted her head. You speak humbly. That is rare here. Most students talk only of their great heritage and powerful ancestors. She smiled slightly. I think I will like you, human. Before Taeyeon could respond, a loud sound echoed through the hall. Everyone fell silent. Instructor Valis had walked to the center platform, and his voice now filled the entire space. Welcome, he said, to the Galactic Beast Academy. You are here because you have shown potential. You have the spark of connection within you. But potential means nothing without proof. He raised one of his 4 arms, and the air above the platform began to shimmer. Images appeared, showing creatures of all kinds. Dragons with wings of fire, serpents made of shadow, birds that sang songs of pure energy, beasts that were too strange to describe. Tomorrow, Valis continued, you will undergo the bonding ritual. You will reach out with your mind and call to the beast realm. If you are worthy, a creature will answer. It will bond with you for life. You will share its strength, and it will share yours. Together, you will become something greater than either of you alone. The images faded. Valis looked out at the students with his black eyes. But be warned, he said. Not everyone succeeds. Some will call and hear nothing. Some will call and be rejected. And a rare few will call and be consumed, their minds lost forever in the beast realm. A chill ran down Taeyeon's spine. Rest well tonight, Valis said. Tomorrow we will see who among you is truly worthy. The ceremony ended, and students began to leave. Taeyeon sat still for a moment, his mind full of thoughts and fears. Tomorrow, everything would change. Tomorrow he would find out if he truly belonged here, or if he was just a mistake. Soman stood up and looked down at him. Do not worry too much, human, she said. The universe has a way of surprising us. She smiled and walked away, her white hair floating behind her. Taeyeon watched her go. Then he stood up, took a deep breath, and walked out into the strange and beautiful night of this alien world. Tomorrow would come soon enough.